Hey guys, Northwest Jeepcast here with a little bit of a check-in, just to let you know what's going on over here. There's always work going on in what we like to call the Mechan Hack Shack. We're just a bunch of hacks over here, so we do our best. Well, you know, so I'm doing a little bit of steering work here. The links on my tie rods and my drag links having some trouble. It started off with me noticing just a rattle in the tie rod. It was kind of a little bit like this, where I just grabbed a hold of here, just doing my regular check-in, and I don't know if you can hear it there or not, but there's just enough of a rattle in there that Heim is starting to go out. And then I looked up and I started inspecting the other links, and I noticed that the Heim on the drag link was way misaligned. Look at that. This edge in here is way depressed, and this side is pushed out. This whole ring right here should be flush with this level right here. You know, this is mounted up on the pitman arm like that, so it was in here like this with the press side down. And so, you know, these are the links that came with, you know, all of this high steer kit from Offroad Evolution. And you can see that they have, you know, a misalignment spacer kind of built right into it, right? So you got a 5/8 inch hole or a 5/8 inch bolt with a bit of a misalignment spacer, and that spacer is there because you don't want these heims. I mean, imagine this guy here. When you're articulating, now the tie rod is not going to have a huge amount of articulation when one side is going up versus the other, but you don't want this Heim level here to be right up against a piece of metal, because then that won't allow for any articulation at all, and it'll potentially break that Heim. And so Ruff Stuff had a really cool solution. They have much larger misalignment spacers, so I can get in here and do a standard misalignment spacer here. So now this is the drag link. Now for sure there's articulation here, right? As that tire goes up and down, this bar is going to go up and down relative to the frame and the vehicle where the pitman arm is attached to. And so you can see this is a much bigger gap than the links that come from Evo. Again, this is from Ruff Stuff. And then in addition to that, Ruff Stuff has these really cool, what they call safety misalignment spacers. It's safety because if there is a chance that the Heim fails, it will just fall onto here. So this diameter here is larger than the diameter of the opening of the Heim. And so it won't fall through if for some reason the Heim blows up. And so I've already changed that one out. I did that one first because even though I first noticed my problem on the tie rod, I wanted to solve what looked like an imminent failure of a Heim on the drag link on the pitman arm side. Now, I think I know why this has happened, right? I mean, like, there's just a huge amount of flex in the Evo high steer system. You know, it just lets a ton of articulation, but you know, this really shouldn't happen. And you know, I tried talking to Evo to basically buy, you know, to see how much these Heims would be to buy them again, and they were just a heck of expensive. I mean, they were like 3 times more than Heims anywhere else, and I guess just because they have the misalignment spacer, you know, built into it. And who knows, maybe by the time labor is all done, maybe it would have been cheaper just to buy these. Although I was kind of disappointed in the fact that here I am, you know, 2 years into these Heims, and this one has already, you know, failed. It's gotten pressed through, and this one is already clicking. So let me show you what I had to do. So now the misalignment spacers that you see here from Ruff Stuff, they're obviously much wider than the misalignment spacers that I had originally from Evo. And while I thought originally it's like, well, on this side I have plenty of room here, I can add the misalignment spacer, the taller one here, and even the safety one on the bottom, you know, then all I need to do is get a longer bolt, and we're good. But then as I thought through it coming over to the passenger side. No bueno over here, right? So I can't really do a longer bolt here. Well, because it's going to run into the ram down here. So there's really not enough room there. In between here and here, I have no room at all, right? So I can't do anything with wider misalignment spacers on this side. So that means I have to do the same thing on the other side because I need to keep the tie rod horizontal. But I don't have misalignment spacers like that, so I'll get back to that in just a second. And up here, well, I thought for a moment, it's like, well, I can go with the standard misalignment spacers because I can, just like I did on the other side of the drag link, I dropped that one lower by using wider misalignment spacers. I can do the same thing here. I can bring this guy up and use a wider misalignment spacer here and a wider misalignment spacer here, and then just get a longer bolt to take up the difference that I add on this side. Except thinking through that, and the way I remembered how I set this all up, 2 years ago, there is zero clearance for any of that to happen. This drag link has to be down this low because look at the frame, the gap between the drag link and the frame. It is just a few inches here, and that distance works fine when articulating. I did a full articulation test as I put it all together, but it sure is very close. And yeah, so there's really no extra room to raise this bar up without it making contact onto the frame. So now I need, so just like we talked about, so because I need misalignment spacers, this exact size here and here, and now I need them here and here as well. That's 4 misalignment spacers. Because I have to do it on this side, that means I have to do the same thing on the driver's side too. So that's 6 misalignment spacers that are wider that I need to make narrower. All right, so here I am halfway through the misalignment spacer work. Now, you can see this guy's narrower now, and it's gonna slide into a Heim like this. And so you got a 7/8 inch Heim that you reduce down to a 5/8 inch bolt hole. And the idea here is to then get one on each side. And these have now been trimmed down to be about the width that I need. But, there was some stuff that I learned along the way that I thought I'd share, and I don't know, maybe get an opportunity to get some help from you. So first of all, starting with misalignment spacers that are not exactly the size you need and having to work on them, that should be second choice at best. If you know of a place where you can get misalignment spacers and there's a whole bunch of them of all different shapes and sizes, and you can figure out a way to get the width that you need, and get a combination of them that's going to work exactly for you, like that's got to be option one, because all of the work to shave down wider misalignment spacers to something narrower, well, that was a heck of a bunch of work. So you see this one, I finished, it's shaved down. So basically I took this and I put it in a vise, and then I took the grinder and I just kept grinding down on it. And so, the leftover material here is just thin. I think I have it ground down to pretty darn close to where I want it. I was trying to be careful not to overdo it and make it too narrow. And so this one, all I have left to do is just clean up all these edges. And then of course there's extra metal on the inside of the hole too, so all of that needs to get cleaned out. There's all of the gunk and soot and everything that was, oh, that's a great shot right there, look at that. All of the junk that was coming off while shaving it is in there, so then I got to take a sander and get that all cleared off so that way the bolt goes through it. Each one of these has been an amount of work, and on top of that, while I had this mounted in the vise, you got to clamp down pretty darn hard, and then you're putting the grinder on it. Well, that grinder heated this whole thing up like incredibly hot, and with the strength of the grinder and with the added heat, it actually squished this hole. And so then I had to get it back into the vise again and squish it the other way in order to get myself a perfectly round hole. And so you can see these guys actually fit on here pretty good. So I can slide them slide them down, and let's see, there we go. And then they slide on pretty good. So that's where I'm going, and stay tuned because I'm gonna keep getting this all finished up. One of the steps that I've been doing is to see that I got my hole back to center again, is take a bolt and try to get it all the way down flush. That one's looking okay. That one's looking all right. That one's getting close, but maybe needs a little bit of cleanup. This one needs a lot of cleanup. Look at that. Get down all the way. So what I basically did is I just got my Dremel with the little sanding bit, and I'm getting it in here. I'm just kind of holding it in, and let's give that a shot. Mostly, I think it's just cleaning out all of the grime that got put in there. So it's getting a little bit closer. Still need some. I wonder if this one might still be a little bit out of round also. Maybe I need to clamp it or use the vise to get it to do a little better. Let's check this one here too, so we can get it better. And that's just a super light sanding. I'm really not trying to take off a bunch of metal, just any gunk that's in there. See, this side goes all the way down, so I don't think that it's the narrower side that is full that has something stopping it. Oh, there you go. That guy goes all the way down now. Alright, so we got that one taken care of. And same thing with this one. So I don't think it's this side that's out of round. Alright, I gave it a little bit of a press in the vise. Let's see if we can clean it up a little bit more. That's not taking off a whole lot. It's just a little bit, but hey, look at that. Got it all the way. Alright. So, there we go. That's pretty good. So I got 4 of those done. 2 more to go. Alright, so here we are with those last 2. Just used the grinder and another grinder to get this ring all cleaned up, and then as you go see, as I try to get it on, well, we're still a ways off. Some of it is the grime, some of it is it probably being oblong from it being squeezed in the vise. So first I'm going to try to make sure that I get it round. So if we go through here, it looks like we're oblong a little bit. So I'll go get that clamped first. Alright, so the first thing I did is make sure I knew where the oblong part was, and it's actually easy to tell because it's going to be 90 degrees off from where I had it clamped last time, and I can actually see clamp marks on the side. So I'm going to slide it in here and clamp it down. And now I know I brought the bolt over so we can kind of see, so it's not going in yet. Now it's starting to go in. And drop in. So we certainly know that was part of the issue, that it's oblong. But I know that this guy was exactly horizontal when I had it clamped in there. So I got that in now, so that's a lot better than we were. I'm going to go a little bit more and then back it out, because it's probably going to want to go back to where it was. Yeah, that's pretty good. So slightly. See how they slide on. That goes on great. That goes on even better. And again, also test on my heims. Slides in. Slides in. So you can see how loose this Heim is. That is a blown Heim. Should not be doing that. And a new Heim should look like this. Smooth moving, no rattle. I'm gonna work on a jam nut. Get my 2 misalignment spacers. Reapply a little bit of anti-seize. Feels like I was just pushing all of that in there, so I'm going to put a little bit on the threads too. So now that I got this one off, it's not really doing a whole lot, not making a lot of noise, but so this one actually looks okay. It's moving a little bit loose. I'm just going to change all of them, that way I know all of them are the same age. Measure drag link and tie rod, get it all centered in.